Picture this. It is 3:45 in the morning, and somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic, an intercom phone starts ringing quietly in a steel accommodation alleyway. In one of the cabins, a chief officer is already awake. He has been awake for maybe 2 minutes. He gets out of the bunk, pulls on a boiler suit, and pours a cup of coffee he made 10 minutes ago from a small French press he keeps in his cabin. 2 flights up, on a bridge that is completely dark, except for the red glow of a chart table, the second officer is waiting to be relieved. Outside the windows is nothing but black water and stars. A 400-meter ship is doing 20 knots through open ocean, and in 15 minutes, one man is going to be responsible for all of it. That is exactly what we are going to find out today. Hi, my name is Jack, and this is Life at Sea, the channel where we go inside the lives of the people who actually live and work at sea. The watch we are talking about today is not the middle watch, the one that runs from midnight to 4 in the morning. That one belongs to the second officer, and it is a story for another video. We are talking about the 4 to 8, the morning watch, the one the chief officer has stood on merchant ships for the better part of 2 centuries. It is the watch that carries the ship out of the darkest hours of the night and into daybreak. And on a modern container ship, it is one of the most interesting 4-hour windows in the entire day. The reality of the morning watch on a modern container ship. At 4 in the morning, your body does not want to be doing this. Every piece of biology in you is telling you to be asleep. Your core temperature is at its lowest point of the 24-hour cycle. Your reaction time is at its worst, and your judgment is measurably slower than it will be by breakfast. And yet, you are the person legally and practically responsible for a vessel that might weigh 165,000 tons, might be as long as 4 football pitches laid end to end, and might be carrying 18,000 20-foot containers stacked 12 high on deck. A Maersk EE class ship, for example, is around 400 meters long and 59 meters wide, and there are around 20 to 25 people on board. All of them are asleep in the accommodation block, except you. What is out there in the dark depends entirely on where the ship is. If you are on an Asia to Europe run, you might be threading through the Malacca Strait with a screen full of AIS traffic, or coming up the Suez Canal, or crossing the Bay of Biscay in a rising Atlantic swell. If you are on a Hapag-Lloyd North Atlantic crossing in February, you might be watching for growlers and small icebergs at the edge of the Grand Banks. If you are on a Japanese operator like NYK or K-Line running the Pacific, you might have nothing on the radar for 100 nautical miles in every direction. Every one of those situations demands a slightly different watch, and it is very rarely the situation that was on the passage plan when you sat down for the handover. What is on the bridge is almost identical from ship to ship. The lights are all off. The chart room is curtained off so that even the paper chart lamp cannot leak into the wheelhouse and kill your night vision. There's a low hum from the engine room, which on a EE class ship sits about 6 container bays behind you. There's wind noise on the bridge wings if the weather is up. There's the constant soft chirp of the AIS receiver. And there is you and one lookout, and sometimes just you if the able seaman has gone off on his rounds. Ask any master who has come up through the ranks, and they will tell you the 4 to 8 is where you actually learn to be a mariner. It is where you learn to trust your own judgment in the middle of the night, without the crutch of daylight or the master looking over your shoulder. And honestly, once you have stood a few hundred of them, there really is nothing else on the ship that feels quite like it. The bridge itself, and how it is set up for the dark hours. If you walked onto the bridge of a modern container ship at 4 in the morning, the first thing you would notice is how little you can see. That is deliberate. The whole room is engineered around protecting the officer's night vision, because night vision, in maritime terms, is the difference between seeing a small fishing boat with no automatic identification system transponder and running it down. There are 2 electronic chart display and information system units, which have been mandatory on most deep sea ships in phases since 2012 under the Solis Convention. There are 2 radars, both with automatic radar plotting aid overlays that automatically track any target within about 20 miles. There is the gyro compass and its repeaters, the magnetic compass sitting up above, an echo sounder, a very high frequency radio permanently tuned to channel 16, and the bridge navigational watch alarm system. That last one is the quiet hero of the modern bridge. Every 12 minutes or so, it pings the officer. If he does not acknowledge it, the alarm escalates. First to the bridge lookout, then to the master's cabin. Most experienced chief mates will tell you plainly, the layout of a good bridge is what makes the 4 to 8 survivable. And the design, honestly, is genuinely elegant when you see it work. The handover, 10 minutes that decide the next 4 hours. The relief does not happen at 4 o'clock sharp. It happens at about 10 to 4. Any chief officer worth his ticket is on the bridge 15 minutes early, partly to let his eyes adjust to the dark, and partly because a proper handover cannot be rushed. There is a formal document called the Navigational Watch Transfer Checklist, and everything on it has to be confirmed. Current position on the ECDIS, planned course changes for the next 4 hours. Every target the outgoing officer is tracking on ARPA with names, courses, and closest points of approach. Any VHF traffic in progress, the weather, the sea state, the visibility, whether the master has been called during the watch and why, and the master's night orders, which is a small book of standing instructions that the chief officer reads and initials before he takes the con. Any veteran second mate will tell you the handover to the chief is the moment your watch really ends, not when the clock reads 4. And there is a real cultural spread here. A Maersk Line handover is famously procedural. A smaller European short sea operator might do the same thing more informally over a coffee. But the content is always the same. Honestly, the rhythm of a good handover is its own kind of choreography. Why it is the chief officer and what that changes about the whole ship. The reason the chief officer stands the 4 to 8 and not the 12 to 4 or the 8 to 12 goes all the way back to the age of sail. Standing 4 in the morning to 8 in the morning means the chief officer is on the bridge as the ship's working day begins. When he hands over to the third officer at 8, he does not go straight to bed. He goes straight into the deck rounds, the daily meeting with the bosun, the toolbox talks for the day's maintenance jobs, and the cargo planning for whatever port is coming up. Then he sleeps for a few hours in the afternoon and comes back on the bridge at 4 in the afternoon for the evening watch, which conveniently allows him to inspect the day's deck work on the way in. It is a scheduling elegance that has survived every single regulation change since the days of Nelson. Any old chief officer will tell you the 4 to 8 is really 2 jobs stitched together, and when you think about the logistics of running a 165,000-ton ship with a crew of 25, the fact that this arrangement still works is genuinely brilliant. The small things that make the 4 to 8 actually work. This is where the watch stops being about equipment and starts being about the small habits that let a human being do this every single day for 4 to 9 months. Almost every chief officer keeps a personal coffee set up in his cabin because ship coffee out of a giant urn in the officer's mess is legendarily grim. The most common bit of personal kit is an AeroPress because it is small, unbreakable, and travels easily between contracts. Some go for a French press, some are loyal to a specific brand of instant and will happily argue about it. And almost every mate has one specific mug that has done every single contract with them since they were a cadet. Chipped, stained, faded, and completely irreplaceable. Then there is the walk. From the cabin on D-deck, up 2 flights of internal stairs, past the sleeping accommodation, into the small vestibule outside the bridge, and through a door that is deliberately heavy so the light from the accommodation cannot spill in. Your eyes take about 10 minutes to fully adjust. There is the star sight window. Even in the ECDIS age, a lot of chief officers still take a sextant sight or two around nautical twilight, which lands somewhere between 5 and 5:30, depending on latitude and time of year. They do not strictly need to. GPS gives them a position accurate to a few meters, but you keep the skills sharp because you never know when the satellite signal will go, and honestly, because standing on the bridge wing with a sextant while the sky is turning from black to indigo is one of the small pleasures of the job. There are the VHF check-ins with fishing boats crossing the shipping lane, a short call in English, a course confirmation, and both parties go about their business. There is the first tea of the day at about 6 in the morning, brought up by the messmen when the galley opens. There is the sunrise itself, which depending on the ship's heading can come up right over the bow or off the starboard beam, and every chief officer has an opinion about which route makes for the better morning. Ships going eastbound out of North America into the Mediterranean get the sunrise straight in the face for weeks at a time. Ships coming back west get it behind them, painting the containers gold as it climbs. Most old chief mates will tell you the 4 to 8 is the one watch they actually look forward to. It is the quietest, the most disciplined, and the one where the ship feels most like theirs. There is something honestly quite beautiful about watching a container ship come out of the dark. The whole vessel just slowly reveals itself, one row of containers at a time. Now look, this would not be a Life at Sea video if we glossed over the hard part, and the 4 to 8 has a hard part. The cost is cumulative. You are getting up at 3:30 in the morning every single day for the length of the entire contract, and then you are also standing the evening watch from 4 to 8 in the evening. That is 8 hours of bridge duty a day, plus the deck rounds, plus the meetings, plus the paperwork, plus the drills. On paper, the STCW and MLC 2006 rules guarantee you 10 hours of rest in any 24-hour period and 77 hours in any 7-day period. In practice, once you factor in the port calls and the cargo work, that 10 hours is regularly the theoretical maximum rather than the actual reality. The mental fatigue of standing a lookout watch alone at 3 in the morning is a real, documented safety issue, and the industry knows it. Then there is the bigger cost, and this one applies to every rank on every ship. Modern contracts run 4 to 9 months, and the MLC 2006 caps a seafarer at 11 months at sea without a break, precisely because the industry has learned what happens when contracts are longer. The Global Maritime Forum's Diversity at Sea Pilot and the Seafarers Happiness Index, which sat at around 6.9 out of 10 in late 2024, both put isolation from family as the single most consistent driver of low seafarer well-being. This is an internationally crewed industry, and it does not matter which flag you sail under or which company employs you. Being away from your partner and your kids for months at a time is the single hardest part of the job, and there is no piece of equipment on the bridge that fixes it. Organizations like Mental Health Support Solutions, the International Seafarers Welfare and Assistance Network, and the Mission to Seafarers now provide dedicated counseling for both seafarers and their families ashore. The ITF Seafarers Trust and Yale University have run large studies documenting how widespread the pressure actually is across the industry. Most modern deep-sea operators, including Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, and CMA-CGM, now offer at least some free Wi-Fi allowance on board, though the quality varies wildly. Any master who has ridden it out will tell you plainly the 4 to 8 will teach you the job faster than any other watch. It will also age you faster than you think, and it will take something out of your home life that you have to consciously work to put back. How this watch has changed and how it has not. The 4 to 8 in 2026 is not the 4 to 8 of 1975. 50 years ago, an officer standing this watch had a radar that gave him a fuzzy sweep, a paper chart, a magnetic compass, an echo sounder if he was lucky, and his own eyes. There was no AIS, so ships were invisible to each other until they showed up as blips on radar. There was no ECDIS, so every position fix went onto the paper chart in pencil. And there was no BNWAS to catch you if you nodded off. BNWAS became mandatory on new ships in stages from around 2011 onward under SOLAS amendments, which means that today's chief officer literally cannot fall asleep on the bridge for more than about 12 minutes without an alarm escalating to the master. ECDIS became mandatory on most deep-sea vessels in phases between 2012 and 2018 under the SOLAS convention. AIS gives the officer a live map of every commercial vessel around him. The equipment has caught up to the job in a way that older mariners honestly find remarkable. The next wave is already visible on the horizon. Some operators are trialing remote monitoring, where a shoreside team can watch bridge parameters in real time. Ships are getting larger. The second-generation EEE class from Maersk, for example, pushed capacity above 20,000 TEU without needing more crew. There is quiet talk in industry publications about partially crewed or eventually uncrewed passages on certain deep-sea routes. But almost nobody actually working at sea expects the morning watch to disappear. A Maersk or a Hapag-Lloyd bridge and an MSC or CMA-CGM bridge look nearly identical in equipment, but each company runs its own standing procedures around the chief officer's watch, and those cultures are stubbornly persistent. The ship keeps getting bigger, the equipment keeps getting smarter, and yet, at 4 in the morning on a 400-meter ship crossing an ocean, there is still one person responsible for the whole thing. That has not really changed since the age of sail. So, when you next see a container ship on the horizon at first light, remember what you are actually looking at. Somewhere behind those windows, in a room that has been dark for the last 4 hours, one officer has just watched the sun come up and is quietly running through the last few items on his handover checklist before he goes down for breakfast and starts a completely different day of work. The 4 to 8 is not the worst watch to draw. It is the one a lot of chief officers actually miss when they finally make master and stop standing bridge watches. The dark hour is genuinely brutal. The sunrise is genuinely the payoff. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to Life at Sea for a lot more content just like this. And if you have ever stood a watch at sea on any vessel under any flag, drop it in the comments below. I would genuinely love to hear which watch was yours. Thanks for watching.